Hi, today I will be discussing the relationship between childhood trauma and increased risk of developing mental health disorders in adulthood. Childhood trauma increases an individual's risk of developing a mental health disorder. To guide this discussion, I've structured my research using the PICO framework. P as in population, I as in issue, C as comparison, O as outcome. My population is adult, my issue is childhood trauma, my comparison is no childhood trauma, and my O is risk of developing a mental health disorder. The clinical question that I've made is, do individuals who experience childhood trauma have an elevated risk of developing a mental health disorder compared to those who don't? Throughout this presentation, I'll discuss key findings from academic research, the databases used in my literature search, and a high-quality study that provides strong evidence for this topic. Understanding childhood trauma. When a young person watches or goes through traumatic experiences as a childhood, trauma may result in a young person may feel overwhelmed by the abundance of early events. Childhood trauma refers to distressing events experienced before the age of 18, such as physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, neglect, and exposure to domestic violence. These adverse experiences disrupt normal childhood development, affecting emotional regulation, stress response, and mental health. Research shows that traumatic experience during childhood can alter brain structure and function, particularly in the amygdala and hippocampus, which are responsible for processing emotions and memory. As a result, individuals who experience childhood trauma are at a significantly higher risk of developing mental health disorders, such as depression, anxiety, PTSD, and substance use disorders. Databases. To investigate this issue further, I conducted a structured literature search using two reputable databases, Medline and CNAL. Medline is a leading bibliographic database from the National Library of Medicine, containing over 31 million references focused on biomedicine. CNAL is a leading nursing and allied health research database indexing nearly 800 journals, including those from major nursing organizations. It uses its own thesaurus linked to MESH and provides full-text access to many publications, making it a key resource for healthcare research. I selected these databases because they offer high-quality, peer-reviewed articles and use medical subject headings and controlled vocabulary, which made my search more precise and efficient. Both databases allowed me to apply filters and limiters to refine my search results. My key notative words. For adult, I've used people, individual, childhood trauma, I've used traumatic childhood events, psychological trauma in children. For no childhood trauma, chance and probability. And for risk of developing a mental health disorder, I use psychological disorder and mental health challenges. My first database is Medline. For Medline, I applied my key and alternative words in order to find an article that correlates with my PICO question. I then added tricks like or, then, and to better further my research to broader articles. I then searched to see how many articles were found, and it came down to 81,817. I then refined my results to lower the search results. The limiters that I added were for the article to be in full text, the publication date to be from 10 years ago, which is 2015 to 2025. Then I wanted academic journals, and the language preferred is English, and the target age group for my assessment is from 19 to 44 years of age. These limiters then brought my search results from 81,000 articles down to 7,337 articles, which helped me navigate through them. My second database is CNAL. I use the same key and alternative words and use the same tricks. And before I used any limiters in my search, CNAL gave me 26,412 articles that correlated with my search, which is 60,000 less articles than what Medline gave me. After I refined my results using the same limiters, my search result has gone down to 2,911, which allows me to navigate through articles to see which one is the best. I found my article from using SNUG202 as it provided me with better articles that related to my question. Childhood trauma and somatic and mental illness in adulthood. Findings of the NACO Health Study. One of the most significant studies I found was the NACO Health Study, which analyzed data from over 156,000 participants in Germany. This large-scale studies provide strong evidence in the long-term effects of childhood trauma on both physical and mental health. Some of the key findings of this article show that individuals with childhood trauma had a 136% increased risk of depression. The likelihood of developing an anxiety disorder was 108% higher. Emotional abuse was the strongest predictor of mental illness. Individuals who experienced multiple traumatic events had an even greater risk. And my reflective cycle was a Gibbs cycle. Description: I conducted a literature research using Medline and SNUG202 to explore how childhood trauma increases the risk of developing mental health disorders. Using a PICO framework, I formulated a clear research question and refined my search terms to find relevant studies. With feelings, I felt overwhelmed but became more confident as I refined my search strategy. The emotional weight of the topic also made me feel deeply engaged in the research. Evaluation. The search was successful, but challenges included irrelevant articles, limited access to full text, and time-consuming filtering. However, I found a high-quality study that strongly supported my research question. Analysis. Using mesh terms and SNUG202 headings improved my search accuracy. The study revealed that emotional abuse had the strongest link to mental illness, expanding my understanding of trauma's long-term effects. Conclusion. I learned the importance of structured search strategies would improve future research by planning more time for refinement. My action plan will be to enhance my research skills by improving my search techniques, accessing a wider range of databases, and practicing critical appraisal of studies. This will help me contribute to evidence-based healthcare and trauma-informed care. Thank you.